In a recent video, Midnight's Edge detailed a Reddit leak from acclaimed Lucasfilm insider that an alternate cut of the film Star Wars Episode 9 The Rise of Skywalker may exist, albeit in an unfinished form. The leaker claims that Doctor Who actor Matt Smith was originally to portray the son of Mortis, a character from the animated series The Clone Wars, and that this version was originally conceived and worked on by J.J. Abrams and Star Wars creator George Lucas. Now it appears that another Reddit user who claims to have sources associated with Lucasfilm that not only are there additional versions of the movie like Doomcock and Ichibaka of Disney Star Wars is Dumb first reported, but there may be as many as 4 different versions of the film. It also may appear that director J.J. Abrams' initial vision of The Rise of Skywalker could have been compromised amid studio meddling in an effort to placate shareholders. In this video, we will attempt to trace the etymology of the different cuts of the film. Then, we'll cover Disney's relationship with director J.J. Abrams and how it may have affected the release of the movie. Then we'll attempt to summarize what this all means in terms of the movie we got and what that may mean for any possible versions of the film if they do exist. We first advise, as always, that much of this information cannot be independently verified and must be treated as rumor. Much of what you hear must be taken with a grain of salt. With the mandatory health warning out of the way, let's dive into what we've learned. For those who haven't seen our previous videos on the purported Rise of Skywalker leaks, including the reports of up to 6 different endings, you can check them out here. To bring viewers up to speed, in a previous video, the Reddit user Lucasfilm Insider recently claimed that originally, George Lucas and J.J. Abrams had together worked on a version of The Rise of Skywalker where Doctor Who actor Matt Smith was to play the character from the animated series The Clone Wars called the Son of Mortis. Reports of Smith being cast in the film date back to August of 2018. Principal photography on the film began on August 1st, 2018 and was reported as being completed on February 15th of 2019. However, by March of 2019, in an interview with the LA Times, Smith cryptically said of his involvement, "As far as I know, I'm not in it." His name, which had appeared on the Disney UK website as part of the cast, was changed, removing it. Reddit user Lucasfilm Insider claims that this version, known as the Lucas-Abrams cut, was scrapped at the behest of Disney CEO Bob Iger, the reason being that he felt that since not many in the general audience were familiar with the series The Clone Wars, it would alienate moviegoers. At Star Wars Celebration in April 2019, actor Ian McDiarmid was revealed as returning to the role of Emperor Palpatine. On July 16, 2019, Wire reported that reshoots were underway on The Rise of Skywalker in Black Park, Buckinghamshire. The site attempted to reassure fans that there was nothing to worry about, and that reshoots were a normal part of movie making. In the latest Reddit leak from Reddit user Ego Shop, it claims that it was Disney CEO Bob Iger, not Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy, that wanted Abrams to return. Abrams agreed, but wanted more creative control. Over the course of 9 months, a version of the film that Abrams was working on was slowly being changed and whittled away by what he claimed were people who had no business meddling with the creatives. Disney and Abrams allegedly clashed and were not on the same page. Disney was said to believe that they could afford to make mistakes on Episode 9 if it helped them in the long run. In May of 2019, Abrams demanded that certain scenes crucial to the plot be filmed, which Disney rejected. He was eventually able to get at least one of those scenes shot. At the behest of Disney, the Reddit user claims that Abrams had to insert certain scenes for marketing purposes in order to help sell new toys, and that at one point, after so much of the movie had been changed in post-production, Abrams had said, "Why don't you just put directed and written by Lucasfilm then?" At the premiere, sources claimed that the version of the movie they saw was not the movie they worked on. A version of the film screened in November was approximately 3 hours and 2 minutes long. This version we will refer to as the November cut. In this version, it is said that Rose Tico still had a more meaningful character arc. According to Rise of Skywalker co-writer Chris Terrio, Rose Tico didn't receive much screen time because of the inclusion of Princess Leia, which the Reddit user claims is only partly true, because she was originally supposed to be in 4 additional scenes with Daisy Ridley. This was alluded to by actress Kelly Marie Tran in an interview with Entertainment Weekly. The opening scene on Mustafar was approximately 2 minutes longer, with Kylo Ren originally having blurred vision and hearing the ominous breathing of Darth Vader. The lightspeed skipping scene was originally longer and showed the planets of Naboo, Kashyyyk, and Kamino. Disney executives apparently didn't like the character Babu Frick, fearing he would become another Jar Jar Binks, and they were surprised when the character became popular with fans. In the quicksand scene, the information Finn was going to tell Rey as he sank was that he too was force sensitive. Kylo Ren's death scene was approximately 4 minutes in length and featured more dialogue. The kiss between Rey and Kylo as well as his death scene were not part of the reshoots, but the result of re-editing, and was included against Abrams' wishes. Disney allegedly decided to include the kissing scene in an attempt to please both sides of the fandom. This version was, according to the Reddit user, edited down to 2 hours and 37 minutes, which was reported by Forbes on October 23, 2019 as 2 hours 35 minutes, which will be referred to as the December cut. This was before being edited even further to the theatrical release, which has a running time of 2 hours 22 minutes. The Reddit user claims that a heartbroken and gutted Abrams believed that it was the longer version that was going to be released, and had no idea the theatrical cut was destined to hit theaters. Lucasfilm has had a history of demanding extensive reshoots on films, oftentimes at the last minute. On Rogue One, a Star Wars story, the production was reportedly such a mess that Kathleen Kennedy brought in Tony Gilroy to serve essentially as a shadow director for Gareth Edwards. On Solo, a Star Wars story, Kennedy fired directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller after the production ran for over 80 days, after which they were promptly replaced by director Ron Howard. According to the Reddit user, a scene with Force ghosts, including Anakin Skywalker played by Hayden Christensen, was reportedly also filmed and cut from the final movie. In September of 2019, actor Hayden Christensen, along with Ian McDermott, canceled an appearance at the FanX convention in Salt Lake City, Utah, reportedly at Disney's request and only 90 minutes before the event was scheduled to begin, with no reason given. While it may be unrelated, it would seem unusual that Disney would move to cancel a convention appearance with no reason specifically given. Given Lucasfilm's history of making wholesale changes to movies, and with the advent of new technology to render effects in real time, as used in the Disney Plus series The Mandalorian, it is not implausible that the entire film could have been completely retooled in a short amount of time. There is another wrinkle to this story. The Reddit user claims that Disney allegedly may have deliberately sabotaged Abrams and their own film. In September of 2019, Abrams signed a development deal with Warner Bros. For $250 million, a deal which encompasses movies, television, video games, and digital content. Abrams originally wanted a similar deal from Paramount regarding Star Trek, a deal where he had control over movies, television, comics, video games, digital content, and theme parks. CBS, ultimate owner of the Star Trek IP, wouldn't acquiesce to Abrams' demands to remove the original series and its merchandise, which he felt would directly compete with his vision for Star Trek. This was believed to be one of the reasons Abrams decided to defect to Disney and take on the Star Wars brand instead of remaining at Paramount. The Reddit user also says that Marvel, which is owned by Disney, is considered this generation's Star Wars. With Abrams' defection and his knack for revitalizing dormant franchises, the House of Mouse may have seen him and his potential for reviving DC on film, specifically citing Superman as a potential property Abrams could take on as a threat. A source close to Midnight's Edge claims that this is not the case. The source goes on to say that Abrams' film tested so poorly that Disney rushed to fix it, the result of which was just as bad as what they set out to repair. The few scenes that George Lucas had contributed were also discarded. A Kennedy Iger cut of the film that was referred to in a previous Midnight's Edge video, as well as by Overlord DVD Dictor Van Doomcock, was said to have been used to splice multiple pieces into the film. Our source says that Rey's power was dialed back to where she was less godlike, and the film further removes itself from previous canon. Our source goes on to say that there is no good version of this film to be had in any form, and what previous incarnations of The Rise of Skywalker that exist are probably worse, and the idea of releasing a JJ cut, which would be superior, is simply inaccurate. The source claims that it was Disney's damage control that was supposed to fix this mess, and invariably made it worse. The apparent attempts to fix and simultaneously fluff Rey, however, were less extreme. She didn't have the powers of a god, nor could she resurrect the dead, but the movie was still no better than it is in its current form. It would seem to be antithetical that Disney would attempt to sabotage their own movie. With Star Wars as one of the biggest entertainment brands on the planet, which Disney paid handsomely for, they would certainly want a return on that investment. Even if Abrams were to revive DC on film, a rising tide would certainly lift all boats. Marvel and DC would seemingly benefit from both having strong entertainment franchises of their own. The Rise of Skywalker and its predecessor, The Last Jedi, will no doubt go down in history as the most divisive films in the franchise's 40-year history. While it's not unusual for films to have what are known as director's cuts, in the case of The Rise of Skywalker, the purported existence of multiple cuts of the film, and along with the firing of numerous directors, it would seem to indicate a schism in the creative culture at Disney and Lucasfilm. Where Star Wars was once one man's singular vision, it has now become merely an entertainment brand, with no one person guiding the ship, as Kevin Feige does with Marvel. Multiple hands are battling for control over the wheel. The result would appear to be a design-by-committee approach to filmmaking, with each player now battling to wrest control from the other. Star Wars, the modern myth of our times, now more resembles a film-as-product enterprise. Manufactured by a corporation who was known as being the home of the happiest place on Earth, now finding itself struggling to bring joy to its fans around the world from a galaxy far, far away. Check back with us for more details on the Rise of Skywalker as this story continues to develop, and let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll have more Star Wars coverage and coverage of your favorite genre movies here at Midnight's Edge.